Welcome to today's class on SQL and Python. We will talk more about how to use Python and SQL in this class. But before I go on to that, let me first of all make some brief explanation. For this lecture video, I'll be using some tools, some maybe GUI tools to record this video. But one thing that I also would like you guys to at least pay attention to is the fact that I uploaded a couple of materials to the model page where you could actually check and see how to install Python on your computer and understanding some basically a Python SQL interface and a little tutorial on SQL and Python. This video is coming a little bit late because the first video I recorded had problems, and at the end of the recording, my voice was there, but the visuals were missing. So I'm making a new video for you guys. And one thing is, maybe at the end of this video, I can compile a list of some GUI IDEs that you can use, like for Python and SQL. I know in the lab you might have some notepad or I don't know what tool is currently installed, but I know that there are certainly some tools in the Linux machine you're using. You can use that, but for your personal PC and computer, you can download any IDE you want for Python. It makes life easier a bit. For this lecture video, I'll be using PyCharm. So it's basic, very well, good IDE that you can use for development. And it doesn't mean that you can't use like Notepad to run Python or command line or stuff like that. You can still do that. So I'm just trying to tell you that for this lecture video, I will be doing the video with PyCharm because I don't want to go to command line, come back to the slide and all that. So I just want to stay on one place, show you the results and all. So that is that. Now let's go back to the lecture video. So yeah, as I said, our focus for this week is SQL and Python. Basically, Python provides you two API, two interfaces for SQL libraries. So we have the PySQLite, which basically is a standard Python DBI API for SQLite database. If you're working on stuff that requires maybe MySQL or PostgreSQL, Oracle, and all that, this might be a good choice. And there's the APSW, which is basically a Python SQL wrapper for SQLite. So if you're just working on database that requires just SQLite database, then you can go for this. So that is just one note I said I should let you guys know. And creating database, well, like I said earlier, you can actually run everything using Notepad and using the normal command line. You can actually do that. So let me show you, because I know some of you might complain why why not show us how to do that or stuff. But I believe in the exercise today, Alexia has done some of that. So let's try basically running the simplify. Let me see, let's save this. Basically what this does is basically connects to a database called SQLite, and we print out connection successful if the connection actually goes through. So that is what it does. Now let's save this. I think I have that saved, but can't remember. Let's save this as maybe c.py. Let's save it as that, like connection.py. So we save it that way. And let's open the command line cmd. So so basically, as you can see, this is me running the same Python file. I saved it with the extension py because it's a Python file. So that's me just making some basic query to the SQLite database, and you can see it works successfully. So that's just to tell you that regardless of having an IDE that is really like GUI rich, that doesn't mean you can still run. You can do the normal stuff we've been doing before. What the simple code does here is basically we define a function called create connection. So basically what we're trying to do here is to in this function trying to connect to the SQLite. So these basically the connect API here, what we try to do is basically to connect to the SQLite database. And if for any reason there's an error, we try an exception to print out whatever the error is, and we close the connection. And here we specify the path for the database file we want to create. So for me, it's the Z drive. For you, it can be C, can be D, E, or whatever drive. So you specify the path for that. It's something very simple. And to see how that runs, I can simply show you here. This is the same code. Let me make that full screen. So this is the same code as earlier. Now let's say we try to create maybe let's say university or uni. Let's say we try to create a UniDB. So we create a UniDB, and then if we should execute this simple code, what it does is that it creates the database. And if you want to see, we can go to the location where I have that. I think that was here. Just a minute. So you can see that we have the UniDB here created. So that's just to show you. You can also run the same code from command line. Now, having done that, the next thing we would like to do is to try to connect the database, and I've shown you that basically here is just the cursor to connect to the SQLite database and print out connection successfully, or you've been able to open database. Whatever you want to print out, it's just a printout statement. And by using the PyCharm, this is how it looks like, and if from command line, this is how it looks like. It's quite pretty simple and basic. And to create table, basically what we do here is of course to connect to the SQLite database. This is the database I used in this tutorial earlier. Print out if you're able to access the database or open database. And then what the execute here does, the connection execute here does, is basically it's a routine that executes SQL statements. So you can basically use that to create table updates, as you can see later in this tutorial. So here we try to create a table company, and then we print out at the end of that that the table has been created successfully, and then we close the connection. To show you that from PyCharm, let's say we create a table. Here we change the database to uni database we've created. And by running that, what happens is just basically, let me make that full screen so you can see. So let's wait. It's a little bit slow. So yeah, you see connection to the successful, table has been created. So that is that. You can also use I think there's this GUI software if you want to quickly also see from the GUI, because I think that's something I didn't do in all the earlier lecture videos. If you want to see how it looks, so there's this DB browser for SQLite, you can use that. So when you open that, you can see that now the company is created. You can see the schema of the table. So it shows you basically that. So that is just to browse. You can use that to browse your table. If you have tables created, you can install this if you want. If you're running Windows, and I believe there might be some other GUI IDE tools for maybe Linux or Mac, or usually for Mac, there are a lot of different ones. So that is how we go about that to create a table. And to insert, let's say we want to insert some data. I think I'll just stick here because the PowerPoint basically has the same code. So it basically has the same code where you create insert and all. I think it's better I just stick with this. I can simply show you so I don't have to switch screens all the time. So if we want to insert, so what we do here basically is, again, connects import SQLite, connects to the SQLite database. And for us, for this tutorial, we're using the database uni.db. So what we do is print if connection is successful. Then the execute here is basically to insert now data into the table we've created. And at the end, the commit here is basically to make sure that we update the database. So that is what it does. So connection commit is basically a method that commits all your current transactions. So if you don't do this, there won't be any updates on your database. It doesn't reflect. So that is the essence of this commit. So we commit all what we've inserted to the database, and then we print that the record has been created successfully, and then we close the database connection. And we can simply run this by, let's say we run that. So it shows connection successful. So records have been created, and we can use the DB browser to basically see if those records are there. Just a minute, let me bring that up here. Yeah, so if you should browse, you see those informations are already here, as you can see. So that is just to show you how we do insert. We can also do some let's say update function. Select first. Let's try to select. Basically, we try to connect the database, and then we select what we want. Basically, we're selecting everything in the table company, and then we print all the rows in the table, and that is what we are doing here. If we should run this, we change this to UniDB, and then let's say we run that. So you should select everything. So basically you can see that is the result here. It shows you like all the rows in the database, ID, name, address, and salary. You can see that is similar to what we have here in the DB browser as I've shown you earlier. So that is just a way for you to select data from the database. One thing I didn't tell you was I remember as I was writing this code earlier, I made one silly mistake of the indent issue. So now with Python is quite indent sensitive. So if you're writing codes, you have to also take note of that. There'll be some other much more common mistake, which is like the semicolon and all that. So if you can see here, it shows you indent as expected. If we try to run this, for example, let's run this. You will see you will have you should get an error about indentation, I believe. Yeah, so indentation error, so expected indent. So take note of that, especially when you're trying to write codes and all that. Just take note of some of those basic things when going. And if we should run this now, it should be fine. Yeah, so that is how to do the select in Python with SQLite. And let's say we try to update something. Let's say we want to update where the ID is 2, for example. We want to update. We want to update the salary. So let's make the salary 6,000 or 7,000 or whatever. So we do that. The difference here now is that when we update, you can see that when we run this execute to update this, we straight away commit that because we want it to reflect immediately. And after that, only we print. And what this print does is basically to print the total amount of changes we've made. So the changes that has happened in the database is what this will print out. And basically we select the result after the update. So let's do that. Oh, no, this is select. Sorry. I chose the wrong one. Yeah, those are some of the basic things that can happen. So rather we should run update. So you can see that now the employee with ID 2, the salary has been changed to 7,000. So this is how you run simple updates. You can see that. So that's quite straightforward. And let's say for a reason we want to delete. Yeah, so let's delete the row where the ID is 3. We run, let's delete. So you can see now that we have like the role 1, 2, and 4, so 3 has been deleted. So operation was done successfully. So this is just a basic tutorial to show you how you use Python and SQL. Next week I'll also add some additional a slide and maybe a video to explain how we do something even better, and maybe with some concerns like some basic security issues that you can have. This basically is the first step for you, and then next week I will address much more other issues for Python and give you some exercises for you to get familiar with it. So this week I hope that you've been able to go through the exercise today and at least get yourself familiar with Python and SQLite. Installing Python on your own personal computer at home if you want to play around with these things. And you can always come to the lab anytime to try out some new stuff. So thank you for the time. And next week I will explain more uh, on other aspects of Python and SQL.